Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Our guests are Deb and Sherry, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. Thanks so much for being here. And Rami and Jessica, I'm always glad to see you guys too. And I'm going to tell you about Deb and Sherry. Deborah Jackson and Sherry Hill are owners of Amethyst Treasures, a metaphysical shop in Topeka, Kansas, where they share their knowledge of crystals and a variety of other energetic treasures. Deb is a certified shaman and Reiki master of 14 years who gives Amethyst Wand energy sessions for clients. And prior to owning Amethyst Treasures with Sherry, Deb was part of another metaphysical shop for over 9 years. Sherry is a psychic and mystic, a Master Akashic Record Reader, and certified Taro angel card reader. And she has knowledge of crystals, rare stones, and fossils. And they're scheduling events and classes for the coming year, and they'll announce their first quarter's events in a few weeks. So you can keep up with them on social media, and their website links are below. And I met Deb and Sherry in their shop one day. I was in there and have enjoyed visiting with them a couple times now. And so, whichever of you would like to go first, please tell us how you got started in the work you do. What drew your interest there? Whatever part of your life you want to tell about to get into that your story.
Well, for me, I've was born gifted. So I can remember clear back when I was 5, 6 years old. Saw my first spirit at the foot of my bed. Um, didn't freak me out. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And of course, back then it was kind of taboo, so you couldn't talk about it. So a lot of when I grew up, I held a lot of that in. I couldn't say anything to anybody. They tend to look at you a little funny when you start mentioning stuff like that. But a lot of things I learned along the way. And it wasn't until later in life that I encountered my first mentor, and she kind of got my foot started in the door. And then she goes, I can't do any more for you. You're a lot more than you've surpassed me. So she sent me on to another person who she has been an awesome mentor. Uh, and then come to find out, um, it's she now comes to me every once in a while as well. And it wasn't until later I got started in the Akashics. Had no idea what it was, but when I first took that class, everything just kind of clicked and fell into place. I felt like I've done this before, and I've been excelling at it. And then through the years, I've got more training. So now I'm a master and a teacher of the Akashics, um, which in February 8th is my next pending class for the Akashics. It's a 2-day class. Must attend both days to be certified, but it is a well informed class. You will get a lot from this class. But as for the store, it has been a long time dream. So I just kind of had it on the back burner with not even thinking about it. Uh, Actually started working or reading in the shop that Deb was at the time working at. And her and I had conversed about my ideas of a store. And then she told me her ideas of a store. And we kind of laughed because they're both kind of similar. And then Deb just said, hey, have you ever thought about maybe partnering up to do a store? And I said, you know what? I'm game. And ever since starting in March, we found the building, obtained the building, and June 8th, we had our grand opening. And it was that people were impressed how quickly we had this shop opened up and going. But we have everything stones and crystals, which I obtained. Some of it I actually handpick, and then a lot of them I have wholesalers that I've connected with, so they know me very well. But we also have various other items, as well as sages and incense and candles and crystal lights. And then we also have consigners on board as well. Again, various different things and items that they have. So we're pretty stoked. I also do readings here. I do Akashic readings. I do oracle card readings. I'm an animal communicator, which is ironic because we're right across from the zoo. And I connect with this lion that I hear every day. Oh, he has been a hoot. So I've done that ever since I was a kid. But I just kind of well-rounded, kind of do it all kind of thing. So, but I thoroughly enjoy doing what I've been doing and been doing it for several years. And people are just amazed every time I do Akashic Records, and oh my gosh, it's an awesome, and it's an honor when I do a reading for somebody. I get to share in that information as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, what a great story. And Deb, would you want to tell us yours too? And then we can just visit. Yeah.
Well, I've been in the metaphysical world since my early 20s, but I've journeyed into different things. Of course, I always held on to my basic beliefs of love and light and helping others. But, I studied Wicca for a while, looked into other religions, some Asian, some whatnot, and just kind of formed my own path. And that path was taking me away from the shop in which the partnership I was in was at. So I need something else. I just retired from my work last March. So I've already been planning in the back of my mind and where I wanted it and what I wanted. And I knew that we would have a healing area and that I would have people come in and share their gifts and their wares. And when I met Sherry has the crystal connection. I have learned that I can help the customers, but she is the authority. I leave that to her. And she does the readings. I can get messages as I'm talking to people, but that's not my gift. My gift is in the healing energy. And I can't really say that it attributes to healing. It doesn't actually heal. I am not a doctor, so I can't put out that I heal, but I can help you learn to help yourself. And that's what I use the Reiki for. And we're going to do some self-work classes this next year to help people learn how to take care of themselves and channel their energies and clean up their chakras so that they can invite a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, very good.
So we have some practitioners that are coming on board too. So I hope everybody will welcome them as well.
Nice. Yeah, very good. Very good. I had this thought come to me, and I thought it'd be a good way to start our conversation then, of talking about crystals in specific, but this would apply to both of you. I'm sure that you would, what the question is, if you could tell us a story or more of when you've noticed obvious power or changes from using crystals, like in the people that you're helping, or in yourself when you're working, for your own personal things. To tell us more about how you've noticed the power specifically of crystals that's contributed to your healing or their healing.
Well, I know the one occasion I had, which was, I'm a very open-minded person, of course, and I had someone suggest, because I had been working with crystals, and a lot of times I do meditations with crystals because crystals assist us in whatever it is that we're doing or trying to do. And this person suggested, she goes, "Hey, I have a crystal. I'd like you to try to meditate and see what kind of result you get from it." And I told him, okay, sure, no problem. And that was ocean jasper. Of all crystals, ocean jasper was really interesting. And so when I first meditated with it, oh my gosh, usually my meditation sessions can last anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, but this particular meditation lasted an hour. This ocean jasper, when I meditated with it, I usually I will either hold it or I will place it on myself as I'm meditating. When I meditate, I don't do the traditional, do the whole yoga pose thing. The object is you want to be comfortable, relaxed, in what you are doing. And so I was sitting in my recliner chair, reclined back, and had my crystals on me. And oh my gosh, this ocean jasper took me deep. Wow. I was really, really, and once I got down in there, it's like I didn't want to get out. It was so nice. It took me a little bit to get grounded, which I always use my either tiger's eye or smoky quartz will help you ground. But it was wow. And it just took me so further out. And it kind of lives up to the name of ocean jasper, because you think about ocean and what the ocean is. It's a very vast open. It goes on and on, like infinite, just keeps going, and it takes you way out there. And it was just an amazing experience. I love meditating with ocean jasper. So if anyone would like to have an opportunity, try it. And wow, it's an awesome crystal. Tourmaline is another one I love working with, because most people know what tourmaline is. It's a protective stone. It absorbs negative energy, because a lot of us, we all know we have a lot of negative stuff around us. And I use it in my house. I have a protection grid. And let me tell you, when people walk in my door, they're like, whoa, that they can feel how calming and relaxed the energy is. Even when you walk through our shop door, you'll feel that same feel. Is because I have protected the shop, and I've placed tourmaline to provide a protection grid within it. So you have this amazing protective field, and you can just feel this amazing energy when you walk. I had one lady walk in, she just stood there, is like, wow. So have a seat and take it in. That's what we're here for. So yeah, it's crystals do amazing things. Each has a particular job to do, and it knows what its job is. And a lot of times when I assist people look at crystals, first thing I'll ask them is what do you look for? What reason you were looking for this crystal? And then I usually, crystal pick you, because crystals will know what you need, because that is the crystal that draws you to it. So, and you go, well, I really don't need any crystals, but you're really drawn to something. There's a reason for that. And I always tell them, don't ignore it. There's a reason why that crystal's drawing you to it. And that crystal really wants to work with you. So it's, like I said, crystals have a lot to show us and teach us.
Very cool. So when you mention tourmaline, there's different colors of tourmaline, right?
Yep.
And so does it matter which color that you would use, or do all do that?
They pretty much all do that. Some have a little bit more than others, but tourmaline is pretty much an all around. It's an amazing protective stone. It absorbs negative energy and dispels it. And that is why tourmaline is so awesome to use, is because you don't have to cleanse it. It's self-cleansing.
Okay.
So
Cool.
once that's like when I set my protection grids up, once I sage and cleanse or do a smudging in the wherever I'm at, then I use the crystals. And once I set them, I just forget them. I know they're there. You can't see them, but I know they're there.
Mm-hmm. Well, very cool. Have you noticed then how crystals, if they change any in their power, or how the feel or of how you feel they work, right, depending on astrological signs that we're passing through, or all the does all the interactions of all the astrological energies affect the energies of the crystals?
Yes, it does. And what's really interesting, there's one particular crystal I know of. If you ever have, trying to think here, it's green. I think it's green, not green jasper. Green opal. If you take that opal, take note of it. I have a photo of mine, and I take a picture of it, because green opal is known as, the more you use it and the energy that you use it for whatever reason, the color of that opal will change color. Sometimes if it's a light green, it might go a darker green. Sometimes if it's a darker green, it might turn lighter green. It's really interesting to see how these crystals, they're living beings. Every single one of these crystals has a living being in it. It's a living. I mean, you think about where it came from. It came from our Mother Earth. So these are living beings, and they were placed here to help us, assist us in what we are using them for.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. I was wondering, what about, I mean, and working with crystals, and you also, one time when I was in your shop, the first time, you were telling me about how you went to Arkansas someplace to dig crystals,
Yes.
and how
We
you find them, or how you tell which kind to pick up from there.
Well, we every year the hubby and I try to make a pilgrimage to Mount Ida, Arkansas. There's so many different crystal mines in Arkansas. We like to stay close to the mom and pop type shop or crystal mines that are not commercialized as much. But the one we go to is in Mount Ida, and we go to the same crystal mine every year. They know us now. Every time we go, oh, you guys are back. So we go down there, and a lot of times I will feel it out. I will usually know when we're in Mount Ida, because as soon as we start getting near or close to Mount Ida, oh yeah, I can feel the energy from those crystals. There was one this last time that I went, it actually triggered an anxiety attack on me. I hadn't had one of those in years, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? I ended up having to call my daughter and to have her talk me, refocus the mind a little bit. And after that, I was good. But oh yeah, I can definitely feel the buzzing in Arkansas. The crystals there are just incredible. But we have our techniques, and we go prepared, and so when we go, one of the things at this particular crystal mine, which was really interesting, is they have a variety of different types. You have your phantom quartz, you have your blue quartz, you have your clear quartz, you have your double tourmalated, which means they're pointed at both ends. Excuse me. So I have never seen a blue quartz before, and we decided this particular year we were going on the $100 side, and we were digging, and I happened to look down, and this one crystal just kind of stood out, and I'm kind of like, this does not look like clear quartz. It had a blue tint to it, and I go, that's odd. And so I put it in my little bucket. Well, one of the ladies that usually works there was her day off, and she came through the mine, and she was just doing her ground searching, and she was picking up stuff from here and there, and she comes over by me and she goes, well, have you had much luck? And I told her, yeah, not too bad. And she goes, have you ever seen a blue quartz? And I told her, no, I'm not really sure. And she goes, well, here you go. And she hands me one. She said, this is a blue quartz. And I was looking at it, and I go, that kind of looks like the one I picked up. And I said, I think I might have picked one up. She goes, well, let's see it. So I reached in my bucket and I pulled it out and I showed it to her. And she goes, yep, that's a blue quartz. She said, where did you find that? And I told her, oh, over in that area. And she goes, nice job. She goes, well, here you go. Now you have two. Aww. So I gave one to my daughter, and I kept mine that I found. So that was pretty cool. Crystals are, we travel, the hubby and I travel all different places. We look for interesting places. We're always trying something new. And we will video and document our experience, because if we have a good experience with the owners or whoever it is at these particular mines, then we will pass that information off to others. And it is just, I know they do it a lot on YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. And it's a great idea, because it doesn't just advertise that particular mine, but it's a really good places to go to that's not too terribly expensive. I mean, we go to Arkansas crystal mining, $25 a person all day long, and you keep what you take or find. So it's a wonderful experience. Kids can enjoy it. We've seen kids go there. I guarantee you those kids will be sacked out by the time you're hitting the road, because they are all day long in a crystal mine. Yeah. It's awesome. And they just find little crystals, and they just think they found the world's amazing treasure, because it is. It's treasure. You're treasure hunting for crystals. It's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Are these in caves? Is it caves? I've never been to one. Or is it just open kind of rocky areas?
Yep, it's kind of basically the one we go to, it's almost like a pit in a way. And basically what Bobby does, that's the owner of the particular, we go to Twin Creek Crystal Mine there in Mount Ida, Arkansas. And basically he runs an excavator, and he goes, uses the excavator, and you'll see, you can look at the walls in this pit, and you will see the veins of crystals everywhere. And so what he'll do is he'll take his excavator and he'll pull it in, and he'll pull this stuff out. And then he just kind of opens stuff up. Now every year they have a crystal competition. Of course, you have to pay an entry fee. I have no idea what it is. I'm sure it's pretty expensive, because, oh my gosh, it's pretty nice when you see some of the crystals that come out of this mine. It's like, wow. Matter of fact, last year when we went, Bobby was telling us they were preparing the mine site, because the site, when they do this competitions, on a different location than where you're mining at. And he was digging his excavator in, and this huge crystal, I'm not kidding you, was probably big, that big around, it rolled into his bucket. And I go, OMG, what did you get out and get it out? And he goes, nope. And I said, what did you do with it? And he said, oh, I took it over where they're going to be digging these crystals up. He said, and I just carefully rolled it out of the bucket. Then I went back and got another couple of bucket full of crystals and buried it. I said, so where did you bury this at? He's like, don't work that way. But Bobby's awesome. He's the man has been doing this for years, and he's got loads of information. Matter of fact, I tried talking him out of a crystal. He had this beautiful little crystal piece cluster in his cab of his truck. And I mean, the points were every bit of that long and probably about the size of your finger, cut everywhere. I go, hey, where did you get that? And he starts out digging, and he said, I saw it and I just pulled it out, and there it was. And I said, you want to sell it? And he goes, no. It's mine. It's like, darn it. It was absolutely gorgeous though. But you never know. Like I said, when you go to these crystal mines, it's like treasure hunting for crystals.
Yeah, very cool. I know, being in your shop, you have a lot of this is more for Deb, I think, probably questioning on your shaman tools and accessories. Are those you sell there in your shop too?
No, we'd like to eventually get into some things, but right now, no, they're primarily what's here is what I use in the healing room. So we're working towards that.
Sure, it takes time to build your shop, build up everything, inventory and things, for sure. Could you tell us though, Deb, more about your Amethyst Wand sessions or whatever? I haven't heard of that before.
Well, it's just the name I came up with. Now, when I was going through my shaman training with the shaman was also my Reiki master. And we had a session where we chose our wands. It was a separate between, but they married them. And I kept looking at this double tourmalated amethyst. And oh gosh, I want that to be mine. But we were working with the other people, and someone else was to choose our wand. I ended up with that wand. So that's where that name came from, and it is in my healing area, along with the first crystal I was ever gifted, which is a rose quartz about the size of my hand here. A friend gave me that, and I have used it a lot before my Reiki work as well, because I had a really bad for a while, and that helped calm me. And then I learned how to use it other ways. And by the time the Amethyst Wand came along, that just added to the tools. And I have other stones. I usually use them to help set the energy for the room when I'm ready to work in there. I don't actually use them while I'm working. The energy comes from the universe through me, through my hands. But I have set that crystal, that rose quartz, on different people having problems with their heart chakra. And that has helped them so much. So it keeps giving. And like Judy, she's passed on. That's who gifted it to me.
Yeah. Very good story there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sherry, then could you tell us more about your Akashic records or your angel reading, your experiences there, or whatever you'd like to tell us about those?
The Akashic is basically what Akashics is. It is all stored information from all past lives, including your present. You can find out the past, present, and the future. Everything, when I do the Akashic records, I have a opening and closing prayer. In the opening prayer, I incorporate the person's name, which only opens their records. Because when we go into the Akashics, I have to have their permission. And of course, when they say, yeah, I would like an Akashic reading, well, then they're giving me permission to do that. Once I go and I open the records, I connect with the masters, teachers, and loved ones. I consider them kind of like your personal guides or your librarians of the Akashic records. They're the ones that retrieve the information for me. So when I get information from the records, no matter who I'm reading, information will come in many different ways. I can hear it, see it, feel it. So whatever I am getting, I will let the person know this, and I may not understand it. Usually I don't, but the person I'm reading will. Oh, never fails. It always happens. It is, I have opened up my own records. I've used it to help me on my spiritual path and direction. But I've opened over hundreds of Akashic records. I've also done locations as well. As long as it's open to the public, I can open the Akashic records in that particular location. One particular place I found I had done, and I always wanted to do it, was the Tombstone, Arizona's cemetery. And a lot of people are going, ooh. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not as bad as you think, guys. What interesting. Now, they will not go into particular people or names. They will not do that because they do not have permission. Even if a person's passed, cannot open their records. But they can give me information about that particular person. There was one when I was in the cemetery. The first thing they talked about was this baby she was here and then she was gone. And come to find out that and then I was told that this baby is now with her mother. She's good. And so in the cemetery, sure enough, there is a gravesite for this baby. I believe she's only 3 months old. And it was back in the early 1800s, all the crazy illnesses back then. This baby died because of that. But she is now with her mother. And I thought, well, that's great. So I'm journaling everything down. There was another one. It was a gentleman. Nobody knows who this gentleman is. Still don't. But they had no idea how this guy died. Well, come to find out, I was told that this gentleman was found. He was doing something he shouldn't have been doing, which was cattle rustling. And he got caught. And whoever caught him took him out. I mean, back then they didn't mess around. That's why they called it the Wild West. And so they took him out and left him out in the middle of the desert until he was found. And so we now know that and everything that I got from the readings that I did in the cemetery, I relayed to the coordinator of the cemetery. And she explained to me, she goes, we've had all kinds of paranormal people come out here and doing readings and this, that, and the other, but we've never had anybody do Akashics. And she said, matter of fact, we've never heard of it. And I said, oh yeah, Akashic's been around for a long time. So she was very appreciative of the information that I relayed to her. I've done an Akashic on my house. I actually did it 3 years after I moved in. I didn't want to do it in the first year. And so after the third year, I decided I'm going to do an Akashic on the house. And oh my God, my house is awesome. And it's an old 2-story farmhouse that they renovated. And they still left some of the old, but when we went in there, the house said when it saw my husband and I walk through, the house knew that my husband and I were going to be the ones buying it, and that it liked our energy. It likes the energy that we brought into it. And then it says, oh, and by the way, birds are showing up. And I couldn't figure out, what are you talking about? Well, that's when I discovered the husband and I, we always sat out front. We got this little porch area where we always sat out in the summertime. We sit out and enjoy the evening. And we started seeing birds we hadn't seen in years. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Because we were even commenting about that. It's amazing the information that you can get from the Akashic records. Everything that's in there it's in our records. And I've done animals. I actually did one of my horse, who has now since crossed the Rainbow Bridge. But one of the things that we had to do when I was in the class learning about Akashics was we had to do a Akashic record on a living thing. And it could be a pet. And I didn't really want to do a cat or dog. And I said, hey, I got a horse. So I did an Akashic on my horse. I had to go through the logist. I had to ask him, can I open your records? And he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm in trouble now. I can only imagine what he's going to say. But I found out some things I didn't realize I had been doing. But in his eyes, it was like, this is how he felt. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this. And I explained to him, as soon as we get all moved in, and I will make the necessary changes, which I did. And oh my gosh, at the time my horse was a senior, and I have not seen this horse play like a 3-year-old in years. And to actually see him trying to buck and kick like a 3-year-old, playing in the water like he did when he was younger. And it changed him like that. And it was like, oh my gosh, who knew? And so that's why every time I open up a records, whether it's for a person or an animal or a place, you just never know the information that you're going to learn and find out. So it's really awesome.
Really interesting. I was wondering, like I do biofield tuning, and it's like our aura or our biofield is the record of our life. We find pockets of you can know how old you were when you had a certain pocket and things like that because of where you are in your field. And I can tune myself. I do tune myself, but it's like it's not as powerful in the change as if I was working on behalf of someone else in their aura or in their biofield. And I was wondering, when you were doing Akashic Records, is it the same thing? Is it when you're doing yourself or your pet, something that's real close to you, is it harder or more difficult, or do you not see as much because it's so close? So you have your own living emotions and stuff that kind of act as interference to things. What do you find?
There are times, that's why a lot of times I try not to do an Akashic record on family members, because it is a little more challenging because you know that person. But for a pet or an animal, it's a little bit different. But when I do the Akashics, well, any reading that I do, I I'm an empath as well, as most of us are. And so we feel everything. And as I'm doing these, I feel everything. I feel the energy. There's times when I had done an Akashic record for somebody here in the shop, and we were back there, and all of a sudden I just started crying. And I'm going, what is going, why are you so sad? And they just looked at me like, how did you know? And I said, because I can feel it. It's like this wave of energy that comes in, and it's just this emotional, I mean, it's like a roller coaster that comes in, and it's like, whoo. Sometimes it can be a lot. And then there's sometimes I'll sit there and go, okay, this is, now I'm getting the gist of it. I learned to kind of bring it in a little bit, and I'm learning to hold it so it doesn't go too much, because it can knock the wind out of your sails once in a while. But yes, there is so much different energies that come from the records. It depends on the person or thing that I am doing. I did a location a couple of months ago. It was actually in Missouri, and it was really interesting. And the one thing, anytime that I'm doing, whether it's doing Akashics or any kind of reading, I don't want any information. I just don't give me anything. I need to know. I'm going in this completely blind because I want that information to be clean and pure, not been tainted in any way. Oh my gosh, the energy that comes from this place in Missouri was just incredible. And then I started getting all this information about it, and I'm like, I can't wait to go there personally, because when I do, I'm definitely going to do another Akashic there. But it's just the energy is just incredible. And like I said, I can feel everything. The emotions, the anger, it's everything, and sometimes I can smell it, I can feel it. I can hear it. There's been times when I've done an Akashic record for somebody and I heard music playing. Physically, I've heard music playing. And then the first time I did an Akashic reading, I was doing it via Zoom. And I had an incident that this woman that I was reading for, and she was enjoying this reading. Oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden, something came in that was not part of the records. And I'm going, who is this? And then they said who they were. And I go, you're not supposed to be here. Because in the Akashics, it's in its own place. Nothing else should be in there but your master teacher and a loved one and whatever information's in there. And this person came in, and I'm like, you're not supposed to be here. You don't have permission. And they said, yes, I do. And I go, no, you don't. And yes, I do. And I asked the master teacher and loved ones, and they said, yes, we gave this person permission to step in. We are allowing her to come in to assist giving additional information because the person that I was reading for needed it. It doesn't happen all the time, but on rare occasions this has happened. And I just thought it was odd, and I went with it. And it was all positive, because everything comes from the Akashics is positive. If you ever have an Akashic and it's negative, then they're not in the Akashics. But later on, after this reading was over, and the person that I was reading for was just astounded. Oh my God, they were literally in tears. I went back to my Akashic teacher and I said, okay, I had something really odd happen. And I just need to know, is this normal? And so I explained to her what had happened. And she said, did the masters, teachers, and loved ones allow it? And I said, oh yeah, they said, yep, we gave her permission to be here. And they said, okay, then what are you worried about? She said, that's awesome, because they're allowing you to exhibit, to build up on this reading that you had done. And I said, the reading was incredible. And the person that I read for was just astounded and just amazed. And oh my gosh. And it was just an awesome experience. It rarely happens, but when it does, I just roll with it.
Very cool.
Did you guys have any experiences with picking where your store is? Did you have with it? Was there any special reason for being in that location, or was it the zoo across the way?
I have been looking at this for years. Originally, the unit next to us, I looked at several years ago and tried to get the other business to move there. And there were 4 partners, and 2 said yes, 1 said no, and the 3rd one, or the 4th one, went with the no. So then there used to be a mobile wave was here, wireless phone company. Anyway, they moved out about 3 years ago. And I once again did the ideas with the 4 partners and was shot down. But I thought, I'm going to have a store there. And then last year, the beginning of the year, I started saying, that is my store. My store is going to be there. And I was nearing retirement. And I just, every time I drove by, which was about every day, that's my store. And then meeting Sherry just kind of put things together. And here we are.
Very neat. Sherry, I'd really like to hear more about talking with the lion.
So yeah, where our store is located, we're right across from the Topeka Zoo. And the first time I encountered Mr. Lion, as he likes to be called, Leo, he said that whatever name they gave him is not his. He said, that's not my real name. And hey, buddy, I'm sorry, I'm not a part of that. But so when I heard him, he was very assertive. He is very sure of himself. He knows exactly who he is. He knows he's royalty. And so I started hearing him roar. And when I would hear him roaring, he was like very demanding. And I'm like, hey, easy guy, it's all good. So I'm connecting with this lion. And so this lion was just telling me all about, well, they're slow and feeding me, and I want my food, and I want my food now, and it's like, well, they're getting to you. Trust me, buddy. I'm sure you're not starving. But earlier, it was, actually a few months ago, he was sounding off, and I was kind of starting to get a little concerned for him. And so there was one day I was here in the back, and I would hear him, and all of a sudden I just felt like I was going to die. I mean, I'm like, and then I kept hearing, it hurts, my tummy hurts. And I go, okay, I will see what I can do. And we had a gentleman who comes in who works at the zoo, and I expressed my kind of concerns. I said, could you make sure and see if they could check him out? Because I'm an animal communicator. And so when this lion was very upset, and all of a sudden, and then it was shortly after that's when I felt like crying. And so we alerted the zoo, And that day I saw zookeeper, because I could see the lion pen sort of through the trees a little bit. And the zookeepers were like, there were like 3 of them running out there. And all of a sudden it went like dead quiet. And there was no more roaring. And I thought, oh, maybe they probably tranked him and they were checking him out. But then the ladies of his pride started being concerned. Like, where's our man? And where are they taking him? And it's like, it's okay, guys. They're just checking him out, making sure everything's okay. He will be back. And are you sure? And it's like, yes, I am sure. They're just checking him out. And then we hadn't heard anything for quite a while. And then we found out that everything is okay with the lion, and whatever it was, it must be good. The ladies are happy. And then the next time I heard the gentleman lion roaring, he was feeling better. And I said, man, don't scare me like that. Don't do that. So I've always connected with animals. Ever since I was a little kid, I could hear animals speaking. And again, I never said anything to anybody because, you tell somebody, hey, I can hear my animals talk. They look at you like, well, we're going to get that padded room ready for you. But I would hear animals talking. And believe it or not, animals understand us. Every single animal in this world understands what we are saying. So I just learned to communicate with them. And a lot of times I will talk telepathically to them because, and then there are times when I'm by myself and I will verbally, I'm talking to my cats all the time and they look at me and go, okay. And the same way with my horse. Me and Storm and Norman knew we communicated a lot. And I knew the final days were coming close, which was a little bit rough. But I told Norman, I'm by your side, buddy. I'm with you to the end. So don't ever worry about that. And the day that I had to make the hard decision, I just kept thinking, don't leave me yet, buddy. Don't leave me yet. Wait for me to get there. And he did. And he knew, and I knew. He was letting me know he was ready. And I was with him to the end. And I am so glad I did, because the reason why, and I read a thing about what a veterinarian had said. And this was like a few days after my horse had crossed the Rainbow Bridge, that they say when you have a pet who has to be put to sleep, you need to be with them when they're being put down. The reason is because as they're making that transition, they're looking for you. They can see us and they're looking for you and they want to make sure you're there. And because if you're not, then they start looking for you. Now they still cross over, but it's just something in the transition that, and I'm so glad I did, because 2 days after Norman had crossed the Rainbow Bridge, my best friend in Oakley, Kansas contacts me and said, Sherry, you're not going to believe what I just saw when I got home. She said, I saw a gray horse running in my back pasture. I don't own a gray horse. She said, that was Storm and Norman. And I said, oh man. And then the same day that she was associated with a lady that did dressage work and physical therapy and stuff, she said she went to her kitchen window and looked at her kitchen window and saw a gray horse standing in her yard. And then she went back to go get her phone to take a picture and call, hey, somebody lost a gray horse. But when she went back, the horse was gone. But it got relayed to my best friend, who then told me, and said Norman was making his rounds.
Aw.
So
Okay.
I totally believe, in communicating and connecting like that, because whether it's a loved one or an animal or a pet or whatever we're connected to, we never lose that connected. We're always connected. That is why when they cross over, they always know what we're doing. They hear what we're saying, and they check in with us from time to time. And that's why I never say goodbye. And I told Norman, I'm not saying goodbye because you're just going to a different location, but we're still there. We're still connected, and we still are, because I still see him here, and he'll check in from time to time. If not, I usually get a text or a phone call from somebody saying, "Hey, I just thought I saw Storm and Norman." I was like, "Yep, that's my guy." So, and Norman and I we made this agreement long time ago that when it's my time to go home, he's going to come back, pick me up, take me across the Rainbow Bridge, drop me off, and then we do our thing. So I've been connected with Norman through many different lifetimes. I did find this out. He's been my war horse in many different times during Roman, Native American, a lot of different ones. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love it.
That's a great story, great experience. I wanted to, before we close, I wanted to go back to crystals just for a little bit. If someone was just wanting to start, they didn't know much about crystals, what's your advice to them to help get into working with crystals, or experiencing that energy in their life?
Well, to learn about crystals, there's a lot of good books out there. My personal favorite is called the Crystal Bible. I think there's 3 of them, but I think there might be a 4th one now. It's called the Crystal Bible 1, 2, 3, and possibly 4. Has all kinds of information in it about every type of crystal. It breaks it down, all the information on amethyst, what it's made of, what it does, how you can use it. That is a great place to start. Start making a list of crystals. Think about what you want to use them for, how you want to use them, because crystals come in many different shapes, sizes, and forms. So you want a crystal that's going to work best in whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're doing a grid, which you have a type of pattern that you lay down with the crystals. Every grid pattern can represent whether it's abundance, bringing in luck and abundance, protection, just whatever it is that you're looking to do with it. A great crystal, I always like to start people out on the crystal path, and the must-haves is like clear quartz, which is an amplifier, tourmaline, which is a great protection stone and grounding stone, because we must ground anything that we do. We must ground. So again, it all based on what you are wanting to do with it and how you want to use it. And they're welcome to come to Amethyst Treasure, and I can fill them in all kinds of information they would like to know about crystals.
That sounds great. And one more thing here, I'm going to put my note to help people, remind them to please like and subscribe for us. But could you tell people how to get hold of you, like your social media links or websites or whatever, please?
You can find us on Facebook, of course. We're also on Instagram, and I believe that's Amy Treasures with a Y for the Amy. Our webpage is Amy Treasures, AME treasures.com. And of course, you can message us through Facebook, and don't ask me the phone number off the top of my head. I know it ends in 500A. I believe it's 758-329-5008.
And your Facebook is Amy Treasures.
Facebook is Amethyst Treasures.
Amethyst. Okay.
It's the
Alrighty.
Instagram. That's the Amy Treasures.
Okay. All righty. Well,
And
thank
you can
you.
Google us too.
Okay. Yes, that's how I found it. I found a different website, or maybe it was through a different company. Maybe it was your street number. It was Amethyst Treasures and a number afterwards.
708. Yes, I'm so
708.
sorry. That's on the website. Amethyst Treasure. Yeah, Amy Treasures 708 is the website. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, you can Google us too. There is an Amethyst Treasures in California that comes up if you don't put Topeka, Kansas.
Right.
So,
Okay. Very good. Well, Sherry and Deb, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your knowledge about so much with us. We really appreciate it.
thank you for having us.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you, everyone who's viewing and watching. And we appreciate you being here too. And we'll catch you next week.
Many blessings.